Hey everyone, welcome back to the RIBO Level 1 series. Today we're covering something that sounds dry on paper but is actually the key that unlocks every other topic on this exam: policy structure. Once you understand how a policy is built, piece by piece, you'll be able to read any insurance policy, whether it's home, auto, or commercial, because they're all built from the same 5 parts. Let's break them down. First up, the declarations page, or DEC page for short. This is the summary page at the very front of the policy. It tells you who is insured, what property or risk is being insured, the policy period, meaning the start and end date of coverage, the limits of coverage, and the premium being charged. Let's make this real. Say you have a client, Sarah, who owns a home in Kitchener. Her DEC page would show her name, her address, a policy period like January 1st to December 31st, a dwelling limit of $500,000, contents coverage of $250,000, liability coverage of $2 million, and her premium and deductible. So if Sarah calls you and asks, "What's my deductible?" or "When does my policy renew?" you don't dig through 40 pages of policy wording. You go straight to the DEC page. It's the cheat sheet for that specific policy. Next is the insuring agreement. This is the heart of the policy. It's the insurer's actual promise of what they will cover. A typical insuring agreement might read something like, "We will pay for direct physical loss to covered property caused by an insured peril." Let's go back to Sarah. Say a windstorm rips shingles off her roof. Before you even think about exclusions or conditions, ask the simple question: does this fall inside the insuring agreement? Wind is a named peril. The roof is covered property. The damage is direct and physical. So yes, this claim starts off inside that core promise. Everything else in the policy, conditions, exclusions, exists to narrow down or qualify this one promise. So whenever you get confused reading a policy, come back to the insuring agreement first. Now, conditions. Think of conditions as the rules of the relationship between the insurer and the insured. Conditions describe what both sides need to do for the policy to function properly. There's a duty to report a loss promptly, a duty to cooperate with the insurer's investigation, and a duty to take reasonable steps to prevent further damage after a loss happens. Back to Sarah's windstorm. Let's say that hole in her roof is left open, and she doesn't do anything about it for 3 weeks. Rain gets in, and now her ceiling collapses from water damage. That additional damage might actually get denied, not because the original wind damage wasn't covered, but because Sarah had a duty to prevent further loss. A simple tarp over that hole could have changed the outcome of that claim. Next, exclusions. These are specific situations the policy does not cover, even if, at first glance, they seem like they'd fall under that insuring agreement we just talked about. Let's stick with Sarah. A few months later, a heavy rainstorm causes overland flooding, and her basement fills with water. Real damage, real loss, but flood is a standard exclusion on most homeowners' policies. So this claim gets denied, not because the loss isn't legitimate, but because flood was excluded from day one. Why do exclusions exist at all? Because removing extremely high risk or hard to predict perils from the standard policy is what keeps premiums affordable for everyone else. And finally, endorsements, sometimes called riders. An endorsement is an add-on that modifies the base policy. It can add coverage back in, remove coverage, or change a definition. The most important thing to remember: endorsements always override the base policy wording wherever they conflict. So if Sarah had talked to her broker beforehand and added an overland water endorsement, that basement flood would have been covered. The endorsement essentially buys back the protection the base policy excluded. So here's how to think about all 5 pieces together, using Sarah's story as the thread. The insuring agreement was the broad promise, covering direct physical loss from an insured peril. Exclusions narrowed that promise, cutting out flood. Endorsements let her buy that protection back. Conditions were the rules she had to follow to keep her wind claim valid, like preventing further damage. And the declarations page is where all of this became personal to her: her name, her address, her limits, her deductible. Let's recap. Declarations page, the summary and numbers. Insuring agreement, the core promise. Conditions, the rules both sides must follow. Exclusions, what's carved out. Endorsements, how you add things back in or modify the policy. Here's your exam tip. Whenever you see a scenario describing a claim that got denied or reduced, ask yourself, which of these 5 parts is actually at play here? Is it an exclusion, a A broken condition? That question will get you to the right answer faster than trying to memorize every possible scenario. That's policy structure. Next up in the series, we're moving into day 3, the RIB Act and RIBO bylaws, the legislation side of things. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and see you in the next video.